Good afternoon, everybody. This is Oscar with BCM Capital. Today is Saturday, April 8th, and this is Saturday Charts. And let me start today with a chart of the 10 year, because I think this is a pretty important chart. And I drew here what I think is an end in diagonal in the 10-year rate. And I am thinking I put here too many failed attempts. I think that this has exhausted its attempts here to go lower. And this chart is telling me that we might start seeing higher rates in the next couple of weeks. I think that the 10-year has bottomed out. And let me go to the weekly chart. Maybe you can see it a little bit better here. This zone right here has held really well. And I am starting to think that rates are going to start moving higher. Let's look at the 5-year. You can see a very similar pattern here on the weekly and on the daily. Um, a very similar pattern of exhaustion. When you see these things kind of end in a diagonal, you can expect it, I think, now, after it found some support here, to move higher. Same deal with the twos, right? When you see these formations here, this to me with the RSIs pointing higher now, it seems to me that rates are tired and they're going to start moving higher, right? The selling of this chart, it looks exhausted. So, with that, what does that do to the dollar, right? Where does a dollar go from here? You know that I've been a little bit constructive dollar for a while. I think the dollar has consolidated for a long time. The whole market has been consolidating for a while, I think. And I see that same type of formation in the dollar, where you see this ending diagonal kind of forming with, several consecutive days here of support. So I'm thinking we're going to start seeing a dollar run. But again, not all dollar charts are the same. Let me show you one that I find very interesting. Um, I like trading dollar against Scandinavian currencies. This is dollar stocky. This has been a massive consolidation period. And if you look at the weekly chart, it's the same deal, right? The interesting part of this to me is that if I draw a Fibo from the beginning of the dollar move to the peak, it's right around that 38.2. This has been strong support for dollar stocky. A very interesting chart, right? To me, I think that this is ready to start moving higher. I think that this has been a very long, these are weekly candles, very long period of consolidation. And I'll show you other charts. The consolidation has been across assets, um, literally a chop fest. People are getting chopped up and down here. And now I'm starting to think that because of rates stabilizing and possibly moving higher, that we're going to see a dollar move. Another dollar chart is cable. You look at that, the same kind of consolidation for weeks. I think it's getting tired here. Let's look at the daily candles. And I have here what it seems to me is an end in diagonal, right? And I do it in dotted lines because I'm not 100% sure, but there's some resistance here, right? If you look at this level here, right, there's some resistance here that it's been respecting, right? Like a little head fake above these prior highs. I don't think there's much there. It's now at them or lower. In a pattern that I think is showing exhaustion with the RSI now pointing downwards, I think we're going to see a little bit of a dollar run. Let's look at U.S. equities now. What are U.S. equities? How are they looking? What are they doing? Let's go to the S&P, the index. Again, let me take this Fibo out. And if you look at the weekly chart, this has been a very big chop fest still, right? If you look at since basically May of 2022, there's been a range here, right? And again, these are very vicious ranges. It did make a higher low, and it respected it, right? And but it's not breaking out higher. This right here chops people up, right? This is a chop fest. People get excited one way or the other, and they end up either puking or having to cover. So be very careful with equities. There's a lot of room if you look at the daily chart and even shorter term charts. There's a lot of room within this chop fest to be very tactical, right? And that's basically the approach I'm taking. I'm breaking these down into different time frames, into hourly candles, 2 hour candles, to see where I can be very tactical with this. Same with the dollar. And this chop fist is meant to be traded. I mean, if you get married to one side or the other, I think that you're going to be in trouble. So to me, the dollar in a range, the dollar maybe breaking out a little bit. I think rates finding support here. I'm starting to think that rates are going to start moving higher. That could put a bid in the dollar. And let's look now at individual equities. The big ones, the generals. Let's start with Google. And let's go to the weekly charts here. This is interesting, right? To me, if you look at these prior lows against these prior highs, against these recent highs, and you draw a Fibo, it's not a coincidence that we are right on the 38, right? Now, I mean, I can visually see this as being wave three, and this as being wave four, right against these lows. So very interesting level here on Google. I think that if these things start finding resistance and starting moving lower, the trend clearly lower, right? If you look at the weekly trend, it's had a nice little recovery, bumping against these prior lows. Let's see what happens with that one. Let's look at Amazon. To look at it to see what the health of the market is. Again, very similar chart. This didn't muster quite the recovery, like bumping against these lows as well. I think this was a head fake, clearly. And now, bumping against these lows in this zone. Let's see. I think that, to me, this looks like it's heavy, that this might start turning lower. Let's look at another big one. Very highly traded, highly participated name, Tesla. A little bit of a negative week. Let's see where we are with the Fibos from the highs. Again, right, against these lows, these highs. I think this is a rejection here. If we start seeing continuation, don't be surprised that these lows here that we saw in December are challenged again, right? Because there is a count here. If you go 1, 2, 3, 4 against the 38, you know what I feel when I see a wave four or a potential wave four, which is corrective, bumping against the Fibonacci like the 38.2. This is actionable against these lows, right? So you want to be short Tesla, you're wrong above 218, 219, right? So this is an actionable chart. I think this is headed lower, right? So the recap is the market has been a very big chop fest. I go back to the S&P chart. This has been a massacre, really, because when the market acts this way, people get cut up, and I think that's what we're seeing. This is a short-term tactical market, right? So if you're going to be trading this market, I would suggest that you go into the shorter time frames, like the 2 hour time frame, the hourly time frame, and find your counts and get your opportunities there. Going back to the dollar to recap, I think if you look at the daily chart, I like this chart. I think that this is found support. I do think this is an ending diagonal. So I am looking for value. I'm looking for spots to get long dollar. All of these charts and more are on our website. All the plays that we put are on our website as well and on our Discord channel. But I do think I'm looking for opportunities to get long dollar and finding ways to participate in what I think is going to be a move higher, knowing where I'm wrong. There are some dollar pairs that I like. So I do think that looking at what bonds are doing, what rates are doing, looking at what the dollar is doing. I translate that to possible equity weakness from here. Again, I'm not committing a lot. I'm just basically short-term tactical trading and knowing exactly where my levels are and what my levels are when I'm wrong. So all of that information on the website, all of that information also shared on our Discord channel. So if you like this, please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's no harm in that. And I will see you next Saturday. Have a great weekend, everybody.